found I pushed the button too hard and it turned off instead of just muted. So I'm back with you live. Welcome to the 49th Annual H. Thomas Guerry Awards. We're so glad you can all be here. It gives us great pride to be able to honor the men and women in local law enforcement that do just a tremendous job for us. I mean, every member of the law enforcement agencies in Santa Barbara County they're all heroes just by going out there every day facing whatever they happen to face that day. But we're especially proud of the ones we're going to honor today. Before we begin, I'd like to just make a couple announcements. One is that we have with us today and has been here just about every one of these 49 awards, and that's Billy Pryor, who was Tom Guerry's sister. So Billy is right here in the front. Now, and Jane Grand, who was handing out programs. Jane, oh, there's Jane. Jane was married to Tom at the time of his untimely demise and has been serving as a member of our Citizens Council on Crime for years, as well as having worked for the District Attorney's Office and been very involved. So it's a wonderful thing. Normally, we don't talk about who's on our board and things, but there's somebody special this year I need to mention. Didn't expect to be this tough. And that is John Tevenin. He was the vice president for about 40 years of the Citizens Council on Crime. And he's the one that made these awards happen by doing all the things behind the scenes. So this year I'm getting phone calls like, where do we get the podium? It's like, I don't know, it just was always there. That's because John made sure it was there. So we're missing John dearly this year. But we want to thank him for his 40 years, and his wife, Joyce, is right, and son, John, are both here today. Also want to recognize some of the dignitaries who are in the room today, starting with our own member, Roger Aceves from the City of Goleta. Also, another member of the City Council of the City of Goleta is Kyle Richards. We have 3 representatives of the Board of Supervisors that are going to be giving plaques or certificates to our recipients. We have Emily Elzine, Hilda Lopez, and Gina Fisher. From representing Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, we have James Joyce. Representing Assembly Member Monique Limon is Johnny Vasquez. And representing Congress Member Salud Carbajal, Wendy Mata. And who did I miss? Anybody? All right, okay. Hopefully we did all right on that. This is being televised live on cable channel 20 at this time, so some of you are saying, well, yes, obviously, we were seeing you there. But for those of you that are here would like to see it again or make a copy of it, record it or something, it's going to be rebroadcast 4 times. It'll be this Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on each day. So if you'd like to have that for your recipient, look at those times, cable channel 20, both on Comcast and Cox Cable. The other thing for John Tevenin, the reason we're missing him dearly is that many of you have no idea, but he underwrote this program for the last several years. So we didn't have to do any fundraising things. He and Joyce just took care of it for us, and we want to thank them very much for that. But this year, I'd like to thank our sponsors of Union Bank, Montecito Bank and Trust, American Riviera Bank, Pacific Western Bank, and the Santa Barbara Elks Lodge, because without their help, we wouldn't be able to put these events on for you today. And just a brief history, you have it on the front of your program, information about Tom Guerry. But he was an officer with the Santa Barbara Police Department that lost his life at the time of some real bad characters that came into town. They were bank robbers, they'd been pulling crimes all across the country. There was a tip that they were in Santa Barbara, and Tom Guerry and his partner went out looking for them, and as soon as Tom stepped out of the car, he was gunned down. His partner returned fire and was able to wound the suspect. They both were caught. Bruce Bowersox, who was the Bowersox brothers. Bruce Bowersox was convicted of capital murder and given the death penalty, which was later reversed when the death penalty was outlawed in California. And his brother received a life sentence. And Bruce Bowersox did die in prison in 1992. But enough on that. I think what we need to do is let's honor these folks that need to be honored today. So if you have your programs, what we're going to do is take them from the bottom up. So at this time, I'd like to start with Chief Dustin Olson from the UCSB Police Department to honor Assistant Chief Kathy Farley.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Bob, for the nice introduction. And it's nice to go first because I don't have any real tough acts to follow because I know there's some real funny folks up here, so you're in for a treat. But good afternoon to all the guests and everyone who's taken time out of their busy days, to certainly our law enforcement colleagues and family members. I see a number of those around here in the room today, and certainly our distinguished guests and the H. Thomas Guerry family and the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime. It's always a real pleasure to be able to present in the company of such an amazing organization, and I really want to congratulate all of today's award recipients. Congratulations. This is one of my favorite events throughout the year, and I can say that this year is certainly no exception. I today am here to award Assistant Chief Kathy Farley, an award that encompasses over 30 years of public service, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And I also have to tell you with mixed emotions, happy for her and sad for me. Kathy has announced her plans to retire by the end of this year, so she will be dearly missed, and we will have a party appropriate at a later time. Or I'll tell all my stories and it's not being broadcast. But I understand Bob has a couple stories that go a little ways back, Bob. But Kathy certainly has a very long and distinguished career and has spent a number of decades serving and protecting both the campus and Isla Vista communities. I just want to publicly thank her for her contributions, and personally working with her has been a great honor. I can say that there's been some very tough circumstances, but we've also had some very memorable moments. And I'm sure that I speak for many of you, and you've had the pleasure with working closely with Kathy over the years, and she's certainly touched a number of our lives and our careers along the way. Kathy has certainly made a profound difference in the lives of our students, staff, faculty, community members, and it dates back to when she was a UCSB student, in fact, and a student employee as a CSO, if you can believe that. And she quickly demonstrated that she had the maturity, the skills, and experience to move on and become a police officer and move through the ranks. So she's moved up to certainly an executive level position. And she's supervised a lot of us along the way. As I look in the room, I see one back there, and mentored us and been really a source of strength throughout the several decades. And this is a time, too, historically, that we know wasn't a lot of women in law enforcement, but Kathy's one of those pioneers and a real trailblazer, and we certainly are indebted. She's always remained as an example for others to emulate, and again, she serves as a clear example of the invaluable contributions that women make to this beloved profession. So Kathy, to me, she's really a sister and a second in command. So that's very unique, and certainly since my arrival in 2009, again, she's been actively involved in so many areas, but I will tell you that her passion has been centered around peer support and also sexual and domestic violence, where she has done an exceptional job and built partnerships that didn't always exist. So it's very meaningful, and her legacy certainly will last long past your retirement date, Kathy. We will make sure of that. I guess my only regret is that we didn't have more time during our careers together. And again, I'm going to save my stories for her retirement party when I'm not being recorded, but I think Bob Hart may have some stories. Bob, is that what I understand? No. Okay, all right. I leave that open to you, Bob. So they go way back, and someone would say that Sir Robert Peel might have been in the police academy at the time, or I don't know. I can't confirm or deny. But in conclusion, in all sincerity, with my deep gratitude, Kathy, you've always been a tried and true member of our UCPD family. You've passed on a legacy that will last to the profession, your family, and certainly this profession. Should just let you know, too, that Kathy's legacy for public service has been passed on. Her daughter is serving as a UC Irvine police officer. So we might have to see if she's willing to move to another campus sometime in the future. And her son is a firefighter with the Santa Monica City. So you can see that these are very deep roots and committed to the community safety aspect. So for over 30 years of dedicated service, Kathy, I hereby award you with the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Superior Performance. What do we stand? Oh, so out there. Yeah. Awesome.
Bob hired me.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on saying anything, but Dustin kind of put me on the spot there. But I did, in fact, hire Kathy when I was with the University Police Department many years back, 30, however many that was. And the thing I remember about Kathy is that she had been a bodybuilder. And she had incredible strength, but an 18-inch waist. We had to special order a gun belt for her, and then we couldn't fit all the stuff on it. I mean, imagine the problem. Think about what all you guys are wearing today. Imagine trying to put all that on 18 inches. So, congratulations, Kathy. No offense, but it looks like you can carry them now. Oh, wait, I didn't. No, good. Okay. Okay, I need to leave now, so I'm going to invite up District Attorney Joyce Dudley to give an honor to Brandon Jebbins.
Thank you to the board of the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime. Thank you to the families who keep this going. Joyce, we all feel your pain, and thank you for being such a strong part of this. Kathy, where's Kathy? Kathy, thank you. Kathy and I grew up together. I was a baby DA when she was a baby law enforcement officer. As a matter of fact, she was pregnant at our first meeting, and that baby is now a law enforcement officer, so it does go full cycle. Nobody could ever replace you, Kathy. Thank you for being such a big part of my career. Now, on to Senior Deputy District Attorney Brandon Jebbins. He had an exceptional year. Brandon stands out among his colleagues this year for superior performance due to his extraordinary work as a Senior Deputy District Attorney. Brandon handles the most significant cases within the Vulnerable Victim Unit, in addition to handling the arson cases for our North County Division. Senior Deputy District Attorney Jebbins is committed to pursuing justice for those victims despite the challenges that necessarily come with the nature of all of these cases. In addition to handling these difficult, complex, and challenging sexual assault cases, DDA Jebbins also tried 2 murder cases this year. DDA Jebbins tried the case of People versus Arturo Herrera, where the defendant murdered his brother Enrique while Enrique slept in a bed. DDA Jebbins did an exceptional job working with the sheriff's detectives on this case throughout the investigation, which began the day of the murder, which happened to be July 4th. So while the rest of us were enjoying a day with our family, I had the pleasure of calling him up and saying, "Can you do this?" And his answer was, "Of course I can," as he walked out the door and continued working on that case. DDA Jebbins also did an excellent job in preparing and presenting, and this was a circumstantial evidence murder case, the most difficult kind of murder cases we have, which resulted in the jury finding the defendant guilty of first-degree murder and all the special allegations of using, in this case, it was using a deadly weapon. DDA Jebbins further tried a horrendous sexual assault case in People v. Valdez, in which the defendant was convicted of 3 counts of aggravated sexual assault and kidnap. The victim was his very young relative. The abuse began when she was just 4 years old and continued until she was 11. The defendant had the audacity to tell the detective that the victim was flirting with him, that she tempted him, when he confessed to the heinous crimes. A defense expert testified that the defendant's confession was false and merely the result of the defendant using marijuana prior to the interview. Brandon effectively established that the defendant was responsible for the crimes, and now this defendant faces multiple life sentences. DDA Jebbins additionally tried the murder case of People versus Eduardo Robles, where the defendant stabbed his girlfriend, Selena Bustos, 30 times, and then fled to Mexico, where he remained for 2 years. Brandon's unwavering commitment to the memory of Ms. Bustos resulted in a conviction of willful, deliberate, and premeditated murder. Unlike many highly successful litigators throughout our state, Brandon's trials are never about Brandon, not even for a moment, but always about his victims. And he talks about that, his victims, and talks about seeking justice. And he doesn't talk much, but those are the kind of words I've heard throughout the years of Brandon being in our office, his victims and seeking justice. Brandon not only works hard, but he also works smart. He's always trying to find that very sweet spot between prosecutor, husband, and father. Husband to Adriana and father to Alaska and Nova. Sorry, I had to say your names. Well, Brandon, from one who knows you well, I think you found that sweet spot, and I am so proud of you for the incredible work that you've done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There you go, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Shake all their hands.
Will do.
Okay.
While he works his way through and gets some additional certificates from our elected officials and things, we'd like to bring up Spencer Cross and Chief Probation Officer Tanya Heitman.
Well, I want to thank the Guerry family and the council for once again giving us an opportunity to honor some of the finest in our local law enforcement community. With me for probation is Spencer Cross. Probation manager Spencer Cross began his career with the Santa Barbara County Probation Department in 1999 as a juvenile institutions officer at the Santa Barbara Juvenile Hall. Over the next 11 years, he promoted through the ranks, working in the adult, juvenile, and institutions divisions. In 2010, he was promoted to the administrative team as a supervising probation officer and served as a supervisor at Los Prados Boys Camp and at the Santa Barbara Adult Supervision Unit. Last month, Spencer was also promoted to probation manager in the adult division. Officer Cross is universally respected by his staff, peers, clients, and their families. He has performed exceptionally in each of his many assignments and exemplifies the delicate balance required of the highest caliber deputy probation officer. Spencer is instrumental in leading the Field Training Officer program and various training projects, including the development of quality assurance mechanisms to ensure new officers receive comprehensive exposure and varied training in field tactics. This is extended to leading the development of a 3-day supervisors field training course to ensure our seasoned supervisors and new supervisors alike stay current in field tactics. The safety and training of our probation officers, along with the coordination of field operations, are always on the forefront for Officer Cross. Through the Thomas Fire and Montecito debris flow, he was assigned the lead in communicating with other departments and in organizing staff assignments for mutual aid efforts. By all accounts, his leadership style, excellent communication skills, and intrinsic belief in the power of teamwork positioned the probation department to render aid and support when and where it was most needed in our community's time of need. Spencer Cross leads by example, consistently demonstrating his dedication to public safety through unwavering professionalism and collaboration. He's deployed a strategic and consistent commitment to the continued training of officers, ensuring officer safety is a top priority. He is a credit to the probation department and well-deserving of the Citizens Council on Crime Award for superior performance. Congratulations. There she is.
I see that Greg Hart just came in representing the City Council of the City of Santa Barbara. Hello, Greg. It's nice to have you out there and me here for one time instead of it the other way around. All right, so at this time we'd like to bring up from the Santa Maria Police Department, Officer Amanda Ricker and Chief Phil Hansen.
Good evening, everybody. Come on over here, buddy. Stand up here with me. This is my first appearance at these awards. I'm a relatively new chief in Santa Maria, just finishing up my first year as chief of police, and I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you very much for making this happen, and I'm particularly pleased to be here standing next to somebody and presenting an award to an officer that I greatly admire. And I feel very privileged to work with Amanda. Throughout this past year, Officer Amanda Ricker performed her duties in an exceptional manner. As the senior canine handler, she set the standard for the department's canine program, demonstrating high levels of maturity and leadership. Time and again, she's demonstrated her ability to make well-informed decisions, safeguarding officers and the public while maintaining a keen awareness of policy requirements and liability considerations. Now, I can't begin to convey how important it is that a canine handler possesses the qualities of maturity, leadership, tactical acumen, and courage. And when I say courage, I'm not just talking about courage in the physical sense, of physical bravery, although that's certainly important. I also refer to courage in the context of character. The courage to do what's right and in accordance with policy, even when pressured to deviate from that policy by peers and sometimes even supervisors. Now that sounds like an odd statement to make at an award ceremony. We talk about pressure to deviate from policy, but what I want you to appreciate is what a difficult job a canine handler can be. They know the policy inside and out, and they know the limitations they have on the use of that tool. And the other officers and supervisors don't always know that, and they see an expedient way to try to catch a criminal, to find somebody, but there's a lot involved in that, and there's tremendous liability considerations. Canines are a critical life-saving tool, but they can also be a very dangerous weapon, and their deployment has to be carried out with restraint and very careful deliberation. And this is probably the most important line that I wrote today coming down here was, Amanda is someone I trust with all my heart to make the proper decisions under those very trying conditions, and I mean that sincerely. As the lead canine handler, Amanda set an example for less experienced handlers. She developed a patrol integration protocol with first responders and assisted patrol supervisors in evaluating canine deployments, all while maintaining the highest level of team deployment readiness. Amanda excelled in this capacity, providing guidance and direction to a newly appointed canine handler while working with her patrol peers and supervisors on improvements to canine policy and procedure. During the department's annual range qualification week, she designed a practical application venue exposing officers to scenarios in which they would interact with a K-9 team during deployments. All scenarios, which included searching techniques, apprehension procedures, and K-9 officer down protocol, were well organized and designed to expose the officers to real-life challenges. Concurrently, Amanda remained highly involved with her many other roles on the department, including being a member of the Field Training Officer Program and a board member for our Police Officers Association, as well as a K-9 member of our department's SWAT team. I'm just exceptionally proud of Amanda's performance and commitment to the law enforcement profession. This is absolutely killing her up here too, because she hates to be recognized for anything, so I'm enjoying it immensely. Really quickly, you know, this was a lot of this stuff, with the exception of some of my, deviation remarks there, were prepared by a commander earlier in the year to recognize her performance. This is not a one-off thing for Amanda. I arrived on this department 5 years ago, and she was exceptional 5 years ago. She's exceptional year after year, day after day. I recently received a letter from a person who I've known for probably close to 30 years, is very involved in training police officers. And in that letter, he talked about how Amanda attended a class, assumed a leadership role in that class, and did the best presentation and showed the most leadership of anybody he's seen in that class in over 20 years of teaching that particular class. That is typical of her performance. So I'm just very, very proud of her, and it's an honor to present her with the coveted H. Thomas Guerry Award for Superior Performance. Somebody got a camera here? I bet there's a family member with a camera up here. Let's do this. Okay. Got it? Great. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You know, I've had a lot of conversations with recipients over the years, and a question I often ask is, which is scarier, being involved in your event within law enforcement, or standing in front of these people getting an award, or talking to the press, you know, at a press conference? And it's typically, they'd much rather be out there dealing with the crooks. The other thing is, when we hand out the plaques, you'll be seeing something sliding around. I've dropped them once already. But they get a ribbon they get to wear on their uniform. So they will have that distinction the rest of their career that makes them stand out with their peers. So they might be someone from Santa Maria PD is booking somebody at the county jail, somebody from the Santa Barbara Police Department's there, and they go, oh, when did you get your award? And the conversation starts because they're special to each other because they've received this award. It is something that carries a whole lot of weight within law enforcement, and we're so happy to be able to do that. So at this time, I'd like to bring up from the Lompoc Police Department, Chief Pat Walsh, to honor Chip Arias.
I'd also like to thank the council and the family for having this award every year. It's very meaningful to us, and like Bob just said, it's pretty meaningful to have this Guerry Award on your uniform. It's an honor. I'd also like to tell Amanda I'm hiring, but it doesn't work that way. Usually Lompoc PD goes to Santa Maria, but I'm not bitter. The Lompoc Police Department is pleased to select Sergeant Augustine Chip Arias III as the recipient of the 2018 H. Thomas Guerry Award. Sergeant Arias has been a member of the Lompoc Police Department for 19 years. He has worked a variety of specialty assignments to include narcotics, gangs, special weapons, and tactics. During the last 2 years, he has been the detective sergeant in charge of our detective bureau. In addition to these duties, Chip, as he is fondly referred to, has performed the following ancillary duties: arrest and control instructor, SWAT team leader, gang enforcement instructor, and is currently serving as the president of the Police Officers Association. In 2017, he served as one of the lead instructors in the community self-defense courses. The goal of the course was to teach Lompoc adults and youth participants self-defense techniques to promote personal safety. The 100 participants provided positive feedback and numerous accolades to the training cadre and Sergeant Arias. In the past year, the Lompoc Police Department conducted several complicated criminal investigations, several crimes against children cases, 2 homicides, as well as 2 officer-involved shootings. Sergeant Arias directed and managed these cases and ended them successfully. During the officer-involved shooting investigation, Sergeant Arias served as a liaison between the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department and the Lompoc Police Department. His assistance was invaluable and served to ensure the investigations were thorough, impartial, and procedurally compliant. As a detective supervisor, Sergeant Arias is unrelenting in his pursuit to solve each case. His zeal and commitment to ensure public safety is unquestionable and is prompted by his loyalty to a community he does not view as his employer, but primarily as his home. His colleagues throughout the county hold Chip in high esteem. His peers, subordinates, and members of the District Attorney's Office seek him out routinely for advice, especially the DA's office. One of his greatest passions is coaching and mentoring youth in Lompoc. He has coached numerous sports teams, and these young athletes admire and respect him. Many of the underprivileged of these youth have benefited from his mentorship as well as his generosity. During the past year, the detective unit has had to be resourceful and creative unlike any other time in the department's history due to personnel shortages, because they're all in Santa Maria. As a result, several detective positions remain vacant in order to staff patrol operations. The unit was staffed at 50% below its authorized strength. Despite these shortages, under the direction of Sergeant Arias, the Bureau maintained just shy of a 70% clearance rate. Quite a remarkable accomplishment, even if they were fully staffed. Chip is considered a cop's cop. The respect and admiration he has earned is not solely based upon his professional achievements, which are many, or his personality and work ethic that always makes a lasting impression. Sergeant Arias is deserving of this acknowledgement because of his heart and his compassion. Victims and their families know he cares for them and is dedicated to help them overcome the trauma and effects of being a victim. Additionally, the members of the Lompoc Police family know that Chip is their greatest advocate. I know, I've been at the receiving end of that as the union president. And he's proven time after time when a member of the Lompoc Police Department has experienced loss or tragedy, Chip is in their corner. For Chip, family comes first. AJ, Anthony, Ava, Andrew, Monique, Desiree, Mr. and Mrs. Arias, thank you for sharing Chip with us. He always has you on his mind and does the kind of police work he does to make a safer, better Lompoc, not only for the community, but for all of you. For his commitment to the mission, to his coworkers, and to his community, it is with great pride that I recommend Sergeant Augustine Chip Arias for the 2018 H. Thomas Guerry Award.
And from the Santa Barbara Police Department, if we could have Officer Scott Macbeth come up and meet with Chief Lori Lunau for your award.
First of all, like everybody else, I want to thank the council and the Thomas Guerry family for allowing us to continue to keep his spirit alive and honor officers who I think you've heard already every single day exemplify the term peace officer. And we've heard compassion and heart, and that is why I'm so proud to be here to present Officer Scott Macbeth, clearly one of the best mustaches on the Santa Barbara Police Department, but one of our finest officers. Opioid overdoses are a national crisis. Our officers are on the front line and bear a heavy burden seeing the day-to-day impact. of this crisis and the impact it has on our community and their families. On September 9th of 2017, Officer Macbeth carried that burden with compassion and superior performance. Officer Macbeth was dispatched to a report of a female who was unresponsive. He was the first responder to arrive, and he quickly found a woman lying unresponsive on the floor in a residence. The woman had pale blue lips, and after checking, he realized she had no pulse. Without hesitation, he communicated his needs to his partner, Officer Beberness, and then he began chest compressions. Officer Beberness delivered a CPR mask to Officer Macbeth, who then performed CPR. By the time paramedics arrived, Officer Macbeth's CPR had restarted the woman's heart. Our officers experience trauma as a part of their regular workday. We expect it of them, and they very seldom ask for recognition. To give you a glance of Officer Macbeth's workday on September 9th, during his shift, he investigated a domestic violence which traumatized families and children, suspicious vehicles, which frightened concerned neighbors, and loud music, which caused quality of life problems for the people that live around them. He performed CPR and saved a woman's life. Officer Macbeth then went home to his daughter, to whom he is a single father, and this is what a hero looks like, to his daughter and everybody else. So one of the things I learned today, Officer Macbeth was down in Torrance for a department's celebration of life and into watch of his uncle, Officer Thomas Keller, who was shot in 1986 by an armed robber. So he came up the freeway to be here to be honored for his help in obviously saving a life. So today we recognize him for his superior performance in the spirit of Detective H. Thomas Guerry. Thank you. Anthony's filming. All right, Jerry. Must be the mustache. Yes. Thank you. Good job.
Can't wait till he reads his plaque. It was hard, but I was able to change it to best mustache while I was sitting there. This time I'd like to invite up from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Bill Brown, to honor Communications Manager, Supervisor, whatever the proper title is, Shannon Hugenbosch. How'd I do on the name?
Good. Well, thank you, Bob, and thank the members of the Guerry family for being here once again to remind us what this is all about. I've said to you many times before, and I'll say it again, that through these awards, Tom's memory lives on in a way that humbles those of us who have come in his footsteps. I also want to say thank you to the Citizens Council on Crime, and particularly I want to single out and thank Bob Hart and Roger Aceves, who have for years really done a lot of the heavy lifting on this, and Bob in particular for all the correspondence that goes along with this and all the administration. Thank you for your efforts as well. So today it's my great privilege to present this award to a very special person, someone who is behind the scenes most of the time. Shannon Hugenbosch was hired in December of 1998 as a communications dispatcher. She was promoted to communications dispatch supervisor in August of 2008. And as a supervisor, she's regularly tasked with supervising up to 6 other dispatchers, answering 911 and non-emergency phone calls, while monitoring radio traffic and tracking the status of units out in the field. Shannon is currently assigned to a daytime shift. In January of 2017, dispatcher supervisor Shannon Hugenbosch received a 911 call from a woman who had just given birth to a child in her home. The umbilical cord was still connected between the mother and child. Shannon advised the mother to lay down, to hold the baby close to her, and she ensured that the child was breathing and that the cord was not wrapped around its neck. She reassured the worried mother that help was on the way, gave her instructions on how to clean up the baby, and then wrap the baby in a towel. Shannon's calm, clear directions kept the new mother from becoming more upset. For her efforts in using her training in emergency medical dispatch to assist in the care of a newly born child, Shannon was awarded a stork pin, which is giving for assisting in the delivery of a healthy, in this case, baby boy. In August of 2017, Shannon received another 911 call for a woman who was also in labor. The caller said that the patient had already visited the emergency room, but had been sent home and asked to return when she was further along in labor. The caller reported that the baby wasn't due for another week, but that the birth was now imminent and that the mother was sitting on the toilet. Shannon quickly directed the caller to help the patient off of the toilet and onto her bed. I've been doing this for 40 years. It's the first time I've ever had the toilet in the citation for an award. Shannon instructed the caller to make sure that the patient's head was raised and sent someone to gather clean towels and a string or shoelace for the umbilical cord. Shortly thereafter, paramedics arrived and continued care for the patient. According to the paramedics' notes for the call, as soon as they placed the patient on a gurney and began wheeling her to the ambulance, she delivered a beautiful, healthy baby boy. For Shannon's role in assisting with a safe and healthy birth and avoiding a plunge, by using her emergency medical dispatch training and skills, she was again awarded a stork pin. In August of 2017, Shannon answered another 911 call from a caller at San Marcos High School who reported that a student had had a seizure, had fallen, and had hit his head. Shannon calmly dispatched emergency medical equipment and then provided emergency medical dispatch instructions to the caller. She quickly clarified that he first had suffered the seizure and then fell and hit his head, and that currently he was barely breathing. Shannon instructed the caller to lay the patient flat on the ground with no pillows. At that time, the fire department arrived and began CPR on the patient, who ultimately made a full recovery. For her role in saving this life, Shannon was awarded a CPR Save Pin. Shannon has demonstrated an exemplary skill for providing life-saving CPR, utilizing her emergency medical dispatching skills in other cases as well. She has saved 5 citizens' lives by instructing bystanders on how to perform CPR. She's also assisted 2 callers with childbirth, instructed them on the step-by-step manner to successfully deliver the babies, and she currently holds the record for the most CPR saves, as well as the most stork pins of any dispatcher in the sheriff's office. And she is also only the second of our professional staff members ever to be presented with this award today. So for her exemplary skill in providing life-saving CPR and childbirth emergency medical dispatching, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Citizens Council on Crime to present Communications Dispatcher Supervisor Shannon Hugenbosch with the H. Thomas Guerry Award for superior performance. Well done.
I'm just wondering, can we ask for you by name if we ever have an emergency call? All right. Well, that includes our Superior Performance Awards, but this time we'd like to start our H. Thomas Guerry Awards for Valor. And we're going to start with, Sheriff, you knew that. You stayed up. Sheriff Bill Brown to honor 5 of the 7 members who are receiving the award here today: Bryce Bruning, Ray Gamboa, Daniel Nelson, Luis Cerise, and Jeremy Rogers. And also receiving the Warren Award are Shaylin Green and Donna Wilson, who unfortunately can't be here with us today, but will be receiving the award also.
Come on down. Well, it's my pleasure to be here again to present this award to these 7 deputies, 5 of whom are with us this evening. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about each of them. Dan Nelson, the tall guy to my right here, was hired as a correctional officer in 2003. He worked in custody operations and was a member of the jail's Special Operations Response Team. He attended the Law Enforcement Academy in 2007, became a deputy sheriff in 2008, and he's worked patrol in Goleta, Carpinteria, Central Stations, and Santa Maria. Daniel was appointed to the position of Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty in 2011, and he was assigned as a school resource deputy before transferring back to patrol in 2015. During his career, Daniel has had numerous collateral assignments, including Mobile Field Force, the Dive Team, the Air Support Unit as a crew chief, and Special Enforcement Team. In 2015, Daniel received the Isla Vista Incident Commendation Award, and as a fun fact, he is a former Coast Guard veteran and was a rescue swimmer in the United States Coast Guard, jumping from helicopters in those days as well. Bryce Bruning, who is to my immediate right here, was hired as a deputy trainee in 2007. He's worked patrol in Carpinteria, Santa Maria, Lompoc, Isla Vista Foot Patrol, and Central Stations. Bryce is currently assigned as a patrol deputy. He's held collateral assignments on the Sheriff's Honor Guard as a field training officer, and he's a member of the Crisis Intervention Team. Bryce was a recipient of the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Superior Performance in 2010, and also a recipient of another H. Thomas Guerry Award for Valor and the Medal of Courage in 2016. So this will be his 3rd Thomas Guerry Award. Bryce is known for his teamwork and his sense of humor. Ray Gamboa, to the far left, on my far left, began his career with the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office as an intake and release specialist in inmate records in 2004. In 2005, he was appointed to the position of deputy trainee. He worked patrol in Goleta, Isla Vista Foot Patrol, and Solvang. He's also worked court services for a short time before he was appointed as a detective in 2008. He's currently assigned as patrol deputy, and he's held numerous collateral assignments during his career, including the Mobile Field Force, Field Training Officer, and the Crisis Intervention Team. Ray was also the recipient of the 2016 H. Thomas Guerry Award for Valor and the 2016 Sheriff's Office Medal of Courage. Wherever Ray is assigned, his commitment to community service and his work ethic shines bright. Shaylin Green, who could not be with us this evening, was appointed to Sheriff's Deputy in August of 2015. She came to us with prior experience in dispatch and as a police officer, both for the Lompoc Police Department. Shaylin has worked patrol in Goleta, Santa Maria, and Central Stations. She's currently assigned as the Shumash Resource Deputy. In 2017, she was awarded the Rookie of the Year Award by the Deputy Sheriff's Association. In her off time, she competes in Spartan races, which are grueling races lasting anywhere from 3 to 30 miles, requiring the contestants to navigate obstacles and endure extreme conditions that challenge the mind, body, and spirit. Jeremy Rogers, to my immediate left, was hired as a deputy trainee in 2005. He's worked patrol in Goleta and Central Stations, as well as in court services. During his career, Jeremy has been collaterally assigned as a field training officer and is a member of the Sheriff's Media Team. Jeremy has received numerous commendations during his career for making significant arrests, completing detailed investigations, and for making a positive impact in his community. Luis Ruiz, also to my left in the middle, started his career as a deputy trainee with the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office in January of 2017. Luis graduated from the Allen Hancock Law Enforcement Officer Academy in June of 2017 and received the Academy's Driving Award as the best driver of his Academy class. Luis transitioned to utility worker in the Santa Barbara County Main Jail in August of 2017. He was promoted to the rank of custody deputy in 2018, and he currently serves the Sheriff's Office and our communities in the Main Jail. Donna Wilson started her career as a police officer with the University of California at Los Angeles Police Department in 2007, and then transferred to the University of California Santa Barbara PD in 2008. Following a brief separation from law enforcement to start her family, Donna returned to the peace officer ranks as an extra help deputy sheriff with the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office in 2014 before coming aboard full-time in 2016. That same year, Donna was assigned to the Central Stations area where she patrolled and served the communities of Los Olivos, Solvang, Buellton, San Ynez, and the unincorporated area around the Lompoc Valley. In March of 2018, Donna accepted a temporary transfer to Court Services Division, North County Courts. She is also a member of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office Mounted Unit. So the incident for which these deputies are being recognized today with this award for valor is as follows. On July 8, 2017, a large wildfire ignited near Camp Whittier, located off of Highway 154. As dispatch began to receive multiple reports of the fire, Sheriff's Deputy Special Duty Dan Nelson, along with Sheriff's Deputies Bryce Bruning, Ray Gamboa, Shaylin Green, Jeremy Rogers, Luis Ruiz, and Donna Wilson responded to the area, driving into smoke and flames. When they arrived at Camp Whittier, the deputies found that large flames and thick smoke were surrounding the camp, a camp that was filled with children and staff members who were frantically trying to flee the fire. Without hesitation, the deputies began immediate life-saving evacuations. After clearing over 400 people out of Camp Whittier, deputies then responded to the Lake Cachuma campground, where additional deputies joined them, and they quickly coordinated an evacuation effort that resulted in the safe exit of all the campers within minutes. After having evacuated Lake Cachuma, it was learned that there were 63 children and approximately 20 staff members trapped by the fire at the Circle V Ranch. The deputies tried valiantly to reach the trapped campers, but prior to reaching the campground, the deputies were forced back by fire in front of them and had to back out of the area. Santa Barbara County fire personnel immediately requested additional resources to try to clear a path to reach the camp so the deputies could evacuate the trapped children. While doing so, these deputies diverted resources to clear nearby Rancho Alegre and other camps directly in the fire's path. Once they had completed that task, they returned to the area of the Circle V Ranch, where a path had been cleared, and once again drove through the burning area and successfully evacuated all of the trapped children and staff from the danger zone. For their quick, resolute, and courageous actions that resulted in the successful evacuation of hundreds of children and adults caught directly in the path of this rapidly spreading wildland fire. Sheriff's Deputies Special Duty Daniel Nelson and Sheriff's Deputies Bryce Bruning, Ray Gamboa, Shaylin Green, Jeremy Rogers, Luis Ruiz, and Donna Wilson are all hereby awarded the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Valor. Congratulations. Okay. All right. Good job, guys. Well done. Good job. Congratulations. Thank you.
Up next, from the Goleta Office of the California Highway Patrol, we have Captain Cindy Pontus to award Will Clotworthy and Michael Fabila. Will being a second-generation recipient, his father was a previous recipient. And I've got to tell you, both these guys, if they're looking a little tired to you, they should. One worked graveyards last night, and the other flew in at 6:30 this morning on a 15-hour flight from Australia, just so they could be here today.
Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Citizens Council on Crime and the Guerry family for recognizing the hard work of all of our county's law enforcement personnel. It is my pleasure to introduce Officer William Clotworthy, who flew in 15 hours tonight, or last night to this morning, and Officer Michael Fabila, who worked graveyards last night. So for the Thomas Guerry Award for Valor, Officer Clotworthy has been a member of the California Highway Patrol for over 3 years. Prior to his state service, he was a member of the United States Air Force for 4 years. He graduated from the CHP Academy in June 2015 and was assigned to our West Valley CHP area. He later transferred into the Santa Barbara area on January 2017 and is currently assigned as our front desk officer. Now, Officer Fabila has been a member of the California Highway Patrol for over 3 years. He too graduated from the CHP Academy in June of 2015, and he came directly to Santa Barbara, so he didn't have to stop anywhere. He came to the best office in the state, right out of the academy. And he currently works the graveyard shift. So they graduated the academy together, they work graveyards together. Now Will's driving a desk and he's driving a patrol car. So they have this camaraderie going back and forth. The reason we're here tonight to honor them, because on January 9th of this year, at approximately 4 o'clock in the morning, they were responding to a structure fire in Montecito. While traveling northbound on Olive Mill Road, their patrol car was swept away by the mudslide. The MVAR's video from their patrol car shows both officers heading towards the dangerous fire when they unwittingly drove into the path of the oncoming mud flow. The fast-moving tide of the mud and debris lifted the patrol vehicle off the ground. As both officers were being swept away, the patrol car spun 180 degrees. When it regained traction on the roadway, the two officers escaped unharmed, thankfully. Without hesitation, they both jumped into action to save lives. They warned residents who had come out of their homes, who had heard the explosion and were looking at the fire, to get back in their homes and take shelter because the mud flow was coming. They also warned patrons at the Montecito Inn who had come out of their rooms because they too heard the explosion and saw the fire. They advised them to get back inside and seek high ground. Not only did both officers survive, but they stayed calm and kept public safety at the forefront of their minds. They were able to radio ahead to other CHP officers to shut down the 101 freeway. Because of their actions, countless lives were saved along Olive Mill Road, at the Montecito Inn, and on the 101 freeway. We're gonna show you the dash cam from the MVAR's video. So. So we muted the volume because it's not PG or G for the children in the room. As you can imagine, there were some choice words being utilized at some of those moments. But because of their quick actions on January 9th, they prevented further loss of lives and injury. For your bravery and quick actions, Officer Clotworthy and Officer Fabilla, we are proud to present you the Citizens Council on Crime Award for Valor. Picture of his parents.
I think one of them said, "Oh my gosh," and the other one said, "Golly." So just in case you were wondering what it was they said. At this time, we'd like to bring up Officer Josh Alvarez from the Santa Barbara Police Department and Chief Lori Lunau.
Get on up here. It's my pleasure to introduce Officer Josh Alvarez. He's not showing it, but he's definitely one with one of the best smiles on the police department. So he was one of the first officers I met before I even got sworn in, and he had no idea who I was, but I was greeted by that when he was in training. So he's been here about 3 years now, and we're proud to have him. On February 25th at approximately 12:44 hours, the Santa Barbara Police Department Combined Communications Center received multiple calls reporting a subject climbing on top of the railing of a bridge located at 3805 State Street, between State Street and Macy's. 25 feet below the railing is a cement parking lot. The callers indicated they thought the person was suicidal and going to jump from the bridge. Officer Alvarez was nearby and the first to respond. He had another officer, Officer Newman, quickly follow behind him. Officer Alvarez saw the woman swaying on the bridge railing as he arrived. The female standing on the bridge appeared to Officer Alvarez to be fixated on the ground below. He believed she was going to try to jump. So as Officer Alvarez approached the bridge and assessed his options, he didn't have a chance to really think about and plan a response. These are the situations where officers have to combine their training and their intuition as to best respond. There was no planning allowed, and that took him back to probably the pre-planning he did when he thought he wanted to be an officer and that he had the qualities it took to step in that situation and act. Officer Alvarez thought the woman was in imminent danger. He exited his car, rushed to her, grabbed her jacket, and pulled her off the rail to safety. And he did that all in 4 seconds after exiting his car. His first words to her were, "I got you, you're going to be okay." Then he hugged her. I know, that's what I say. So these are the words, obviously, and actions of a compassionate officer who saved a woman's life and jeopardized his own in the process. So that is why today we recognize Officer Josh Alvarez, a hero, for his valor in the spirit of H. Thomas Guerry. Thank you.
You know, as we do these awards every year, one thing that really impresses me is not just the recipients, but the quality we have leading these departments. I mean, it gives you all an opportunity to see the department head from every agency in Santa Barbara County here. And I think there's a reason that we have such good law enforcement here is because we have such good leadership. And I think you can all agree with that. I want to thank them for the jobs they're doing to keep the departments running. I want to thank the Honor Guard. It's a multi-agency Honor Guard, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that, but there was an officer from Guadalupe PD, Santa Maria PD, Santa Barbara PD, et cetera, representing them. But I think every one of these recipients would probably like to thank you, their families, for helping them in their careers so they could be honored today. So thank you all.
Thank you.